Okay, so I made my first million with my agency in January 2018. Screenshot here for you. My first 10 million in 2022. And in 2023, did $18 million with my agency. Here's our accounts. You can see it for yourself in the UK on Companies House. All records are public. So you can see exactly what I've managed to do with my agency. And early in 2025, I'll be reaching $100 million in actual agency revenue generated with my agency, Gemflow, where I help some of the biggest creators in the world monetize their audiences and work with the biggest brands in the world, connecting with the relevant creators, offering them a ton of different services. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through my exact blueprint to scaling an agency so you can steal it, copy it, and use it to grow your own agency. And look, I'm going to cover 4 key things. First is what service you should be offering, because the truth is, what I've managed to do there is very different to what most people do. Second, it's who you actually want to get as clients. You got to be very strategic with it. I'm going to give you away my exact thought process. Number 3 is the actual business model, the offer, and how to price yourself so you can actually make the most money possible as fast as possible, because that is what I wanted to do when I started my agency. And number 4 is client communication, which is the biggest thing for retention. I'm going to give you the exact framework that we use at Gemflow. And then I have one more bonus one, which is all about signing clients, because it's been one of the biggest reasons I've managed to scale so fast and so big is because of the ability to sign massive brands and creators of the world. I'm going to give you that at the end of this video. With that being said, let's get into the first one. So the first step of my blueprint is the actual service you offer. And the truth is, I realized something very early on when I was setting up my agency, that if you think about it, every single business in the world is trying to do the same thing. They're trying to drive as much traffic as possible at the top end to try and get the most customers at the bottom. Whether you're a brand, like with a product, you ultimately are trying to get the most people who will buy this product. If you're an agency, we are trying to get as many leads as possible, right? Trying to get as many clients. It's always the exact same thing, no matter what. So very early on, I thought, if I could align myself with the complete funnel that every business is also trying to do themselves, I will have the greatest chance of success, because my goal was simple. I wanted to make as much money as physically possible, as fast as possible as an agency. I didn't really care about 10K months or whatever. And the truth is, we went from a few 100,000 to $1 million plus very fast as a business, as an agency, because of this thinking. Because it was like, how do we offer the services across a whole funnel and not just part of it? Let me explain. So as you can see here, this is what a normal funnel looks like, right? So we have brand awareness at the top. Ultimately, you are doing a bunch of different things as a business. Your ideal client is to trying to drive that awareness, traffic. They want to convert, they want to retain those. As you can see here, I've put the further down you offer a service, the more money you can make. Why? Because it's harder. Obviously, the further down you are, the more skillful you actually need to be. Hence why you see so many people promising leads and traffic and saying we can get you sales calls, because it's the easiest low-hanging fruit. But you're also the furthest away from what the business actually cares about, what your ideal client cares about, right? So I realized this super early on, that I want to provide a service that's just not one of these 4 things. I want it to be, it's the whole stack. I want to be a full stack agency. So for me, that was quite simple. I was like, if I'm going to help a creator, because I saw the opportunity, and I was talking more about that later in this video, I don't want to just help them grow an audience, because that will just be top of the funnel. I don't just want to say to them, I can help you get customers. I told them that I can help you launch a business in full, meaning I will help you grow your audience. I will help you convert that audience. Then I'll help you keep selling and retaining those customers through subscription, repeat purchase buys, and just become loyal fans, subscribers, customers. So I aligned myself with the exact same interests of my client. So every single thing that I'm going to do, it's going to be part of their funnel. It's win, 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 win. Versus what most people do, even to this day, you'll become a lead gen agency, or you are a short form content agency. You're promising you're going to drive this much traffic, get this many leads, and this much this. But ultimately, you don't actually know how the rest of their funnel performs. So even if you get them, even if you get them 50 leads, you actually don't know how many of them will really convert and you have no control over it. So whether out of those 50 leads, they get 2 new clients and it's that success, that's where it becomes really, really tough. And ultimately, you are not in control of your own growth because you could get the best leads for another company. But if they're just terrible at converting them, it's never going to be okay. At some point, they're going to cancel your service because it's not working for them. So I realized this super early on, and it's a very different way of thinking what the whole world would tell you. The world tells you, pick one thing. So let's say pick, lead gen, and you just focus on that and you can become the biggest lead gen agency in the world. It's like, I don't believe that. For me, it's all about you should be aligning yourself with the business's interest so you both win. Look, I've got it here, right? So if I was to delve into this a bit deeper, top of the funnel is where you have your creative agencies, social media agencies, UGC agencies, could be business development, all of that stuff. Ultimately, you're just saying to a brand, I'm just going to help you get more awareness, right? I'm going to get you more traffic. And so they'll be only willing to pay a certain amount because you are the furthest away from conversion. You are helping them just widen the pool, but you are the furthest away from them actually making money. The further you are from them making money, the less money you will make. It's as simple as that. The closest you are to getting someone to buy something because of what you do, the service you provide, the more money you can make. It's just simple. Next layer, obviously there's ads and lead gen and SEO companies. That's why SEO agencies are so hard because you only can drive a bit of traffic. That's all you can do really. So it's always going to be tough to scale. Can you get clients to pay you? Of course. Can you get 10, 20, 30 clients paying you a few $1,000s per month? Of course. This is about how you scale an agency. How you scale an agency to 8 figures one day, you're going to have to be more strategic with the way you offer your services. Obviously, conversion is where you could be doing CRO, you're doing sales teams, it could be an ad agency, which is going all the way and converting people as well. Could be copywriting, could be an email marketing agency. And then down to retention, we obviously CRO, post-purchase, and there's some retention agencies now who are fully doing that. But for me, it's not about one of those. So the sooner you realize that you need to make your service full stack, the better. So for example, if you're in a UGC agency, you shouldn't just make 30 pieces of content and go, there you go. You're going to have to learn the skill to also run those UGC adverts as ads or UGC pieces of content as ads. So then you are also in charge of the conversion. Because the main thing is, I'll then discuss this in the business module section, is that the closer you are to conversion, the more you can get paid because you can start getting paid percentages of the actual money that you are generating for someone. And that is the exact way I've managed to do it. So when you're thinking of what service you want to offer, from the very beginning, try not to just do one part of it. So if you're a design agency, there's so many landing page agencies now. Great. I see it all the time. So if you're designing a landing page, also just develop it. Also try to increase conversion. It's the same thing. Because if you are making someone a landing page and you can make it and you can drive conversion, you will make so much more money. And that requires one thing and one thing alone, right? You're going to have to develop your skills. One of the best things you can do for yourself as an agency owner is develop adjacent skills. So today I understand, right, that you may just be amazing at design. So you're like, okay, I'm going to make landing pages. And that is it. I'm just going to get 50 clients paying me $2,000 per month and I'm rich. I get it. But in the same way, if you were to think, if I can just learn adjacent skills, if I just learn how to then develop that in Webflow, Framer, Shopify, whatever, right? Develop the skill, hire people, hire remote people, develop the skill of doing the next step of the funnel, right? Because if the next step of the funnel is within your agency, you are that much more aligned with your end client. There's that one less reason why that client won't ever leave you because you're doing one more thing for them. Then if you're like, I'm also going to help you with CRO, meaning I'm going to build a page, I'm going to design the page, I'm going to build it, we're going to launch it, and I'm going to look at, is this actually working? If not, I'm going to go back, I'm going to change the design, I'm going to change the copy, and I'm going to do it again, right? That is how you can make way more money than just trying to get one client again and again forever to do the one thing forever the same. So it's not about scaling one service. It's about creating the perfect service, which is full stack. So your client's funnel is in your control because then the world, is there for you. I have clients that are paying me 50,000 monthly retainers now because we manage that funnel for them. Because as that funnel keeps getting bigger and bigger, As that client is making, that client in itself is making $6 million a year, we can charge 50,000 plus a percentage because we are in control of it. I am using my skill to make the client as much money as physically possible, and I'm in control of it so I can actually do it. I'm not just funneling leads. I'm not just pulling traffic. And then that leads to them making the most money and I'm making the most money. And that is the single best way to craft your offer, your service, so it's aligned in the full way. So the second stage of the blueprint is knowing who you want to sell to and being very strategic with it. So in the early years, the truth is I was struggling with the same thing. It's like, I just want to get any clients, right? You want to get going. You want to prove that this thing works. But I realized that there's actually a science to this. And you have to think about who are your ideal clients and get really analytical with it. So for me, there's a massive difference that if you have an agency today and if you're trying to sell to new entrepreneurs, freelancers, coaches, new agency owners, it'll be very different because again, they have the least money and there's the easiest to sign because they have the least friction. But then in the middle, you'll have like brands, businesses that have been going on for a few years who are more established. They won't be as easy to sell to, but they have more money. And then you have big corporate companies that have lots of money and you can make a lot of money from, but they're the hardest to sell to and probably the longest to convert someone, right? So I was quite conscious of this in the beginning. So firstly, you have to be like, which one of those are you going to pick? And naturally, most people are going to pick, the smallest people or the middle people, because naturally you're not pitching a massive corporate business when you're starting. So, we'll focus on these guys. The key thing here is that before you delve into saying, okay, I think with my design agency, as we discussed in point one, right, you're going to be landing pages, we can design them, build them, and we're going to operate them. Who are we going to do it for? We need to start thinking way more about those ideal clients before we choose that those are the ones we want to try and attract. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through my framework. So here, as you can see on my screen, what I love to do if I'm launching a new service within the agency is that I will still follow something like this. And what this is, essentially, it's a framework for you to try to understand who your ideal client would be, to try to answer some key questions about them so you know that up front. Because if today you can't just look online and you can't find the clients that you would want to have or that would be interested in you, then essentially you're launching the wrong service, the wrong thing. A lot of people online say, find some niche, that no one is doing and come up with some amazing offer and you're going to basically like dominate it, which is like far from the truth. If you can't find competitors that are doing exactly what you're doing, you're going to have a hard time because that means that thing is just not popular. Secondly, if you can't find the clients clearly that would be the type of client that would work with you, then you're also going to struggle. So I'll walk you through this framework very, very quickly. So what I normally do is I like to put in like what industry is somebody in, where are they based? So where is this client that you want to sign? So if you found one online, like where are they based? What's their size then? Are they new? Are they small? Or are they a large business, right? Like who are they? Because I'm sure you say, let's say if you're doing design, I'm sure you can be like, oh, I'd love to sign Nike. I can do their stuff. But in reality, you can't, right? Like Nike's not going to work with you. So who's going to work with you? Who would be the ideal person for you? You got to really think about it. Who are you able to convert today based on your knowledge, experience, what you know, and everything about you? Who would be the right client for you? Simple. You have to think of that before. It's the same as, let's say, if you're looking for a life partner, you would naturally be thinking, I want to find a girl or a guy who's like this, has these beliefs, is interested in this stuff. You have some criteria, right, of finding a person. It's exactly the same as clients. Before you even begin, before you're going to try to be a big agency, make a lot of money and all that good stuff, you have to have criteria that you actually want yourself. Because when that happens is when there'll be alignment and you'll be able to build an amazing agency. For me, look, before I go more into the framework, for me, I loved being online as a kid. I was early on Amazon, early on eBay. I extremely understood online culture. So as soon as social media started becoming a thing, I was like, I need to be in a business to do something with social media because I understand social media. I understand online. And then I had an e-commerce background. I was buying and selling stuff since I was 15, 16 years old. So I was like, I want to be on social media, online, yes. I was using the internet on dial-up modem days. So like I've been on the internet since internet began. So I was like, I understand the internet, spent hours and hours of my childhood on it. I understand buying and selling. And I fell into this world of influencer creators because essentially that was a child of online and social media. And these people who were influencers, now creators, who are essentially dominating that space and still do to this day. Now, obviously, creators are billionaires. So it's all possible. So for me, it was natural alignment to be like, okay, I need to find clients in this box because I understand that space so much. And then it came to, who do I want to go after? I don't want to go after the people who have just started because they have no audience and they're broke and they're the bottom end of this world that I know about. I want the people who are making money, who are already having some success and now make a lot of money. That's my ideal client. That's the person that I want. So as an agency, you have to be very, very methodical about which are the clients that you actually want to work for. That's what I hate when someone's like, I'm going to start an SEO agency helping barbershops in New York. It's like, why? Why do you want to do that? I had a guy once I was talking to and he was running a lead gen agency for real estate. I was like, do you like real estate? No. Have you ever bought any real estate? No. Why did you do that? Well, I thought it'd be a profitable niche. It's like, right. There's a reason why it's been 2 years and you suck and your agency is going nowhere because you're just doing the wrong thing. You have no interest in it. You know nothing about this space, but because you think it would have made you a lot of money, you're like, I'm doing this. It just won't work. So for me, it was clear. I want to help the people in the space that I'm naturally interested in. I had a skill in that space because I had been online and I understood the space very well. I had sold things online before. I had built websites myself from scratch in the old days, so I knew it. So, but then I wanted to make sure I'm going to work with the people who actually want to make the most money and are ready to make money versus the new creator who's just starting out and has a job and is doing other stuff because they're just not in the right space. So back to my frameworks, and now you have context. You are thinking, okay, what business is it going to be? Then I'm thinking, what product service do they sell? Meaning, I knew with my case, right, if it's a creator, they are selling content, so it makes sense. I know how to sell things online. Similarly, later it was like, okay, brands want awareness. They need creators. I can help do that. And then since then, obviously now we offer every type of service you could think of, from e-com, we manufacture products, design, creative, paid ads, email marketing, social media content. Like, we do it all over time. Ultimately, what are the key relevant problems to your services that somebody is having? Meaning, if you want to work with, D2C brands as a design agency, do you know enough to solve D2C businesses' problems, which would be about how to sort a collection, how to drive conversion, etc. Like, are you actually able to solve the problems before you think you can help that group of people? And generally, then you can start to actually play about with like, what budget do you think they have? Also like, who are the founders? Like, who would be the best clients for you, right? So for me, early on, it was quite simple. I was going to the gym. I understood fitness, understood online. I naturally signed fitness guys first because when I would meet them, I understood them because I was on bodybuilding.com in the early days. I understood that niche so well that I could communicate to them as one of them, as a consumer, as part of that industry. So they felt like there was a connection, so you can immediately get on. And that in the early days is massive because you were trying to sign clients you enjoy working for so you can get the best results for, which will then help you sign more clients and the rest of it. So ultimately, as you can see here, like, do they have a good personality fit? This is like a massive thing. And I'm going to turn to one more thing in my frameworks. I love frameworks, by the way. It's the best way to learn, scale, do everything that you do. You have to create a framework, and you should create your own frameworks. I always create my own framework based on my own thinking because it massively will help you structure it so then it can be used again and again within your agency. So I do a very similar exercise for every time you get a lead. So, now we've been talking about upfront, it's about knowing who you want to sign as a client. But then secondly, when the opportunity comes your way, you cannot forget that. I know how it feels. I was desperate. I've been in minus in my bank account. I've been overdraft. That any client, you're like, yes. When that notification hits and a call is booked, you feel like this is it. And the feeling of signing a client, the feeling of a client paying your invoice, it's amazing, right? The best feeling in the world. But you also don't want the wrong client because it will kill your business. You also don't want someone that's going to drain your resources or you mentally. So what I always do and tend to say to anyone that I've spoken about when it comes to signing clients is that you got to remember the same thinking when a lead comes in, and you got to do the same analysis on them. So as you can see here, we want to immediately be like, does this lead fit our ideal client profile that we just discussed? So for me, I used to get approached by brands, and to this day, we get approached by normal brands that are like, hey, I have this shoe company. Could you help me scale? And we're like, no, because they're not my ideal client. So either it has to be a big brand that has a lot of money and wants to do something very cool with creators, or they have to be an audience first brand, meaning their face or the owner is a creator, so they have the audience. Me sticking to what I am best at has allowed us to scale. Versus if I just helped any brand coming to the door, because the truth is I have the infrastructure, I can make this for anybody in the world. But I don't want to make for anyone in the world because it's not worth our time. It's not worth us doing that. So knowing who to say no to is a massive superpower. So when that lead comes in, you got to analyze it again, right? You got to be like, is this my ideal client? Yes or no? But you can go forwards. Let's say if they are your ideal client, you want to go a bit more deeper. You want to start looking at how legit they are as a business. Like, do they have any social media followers? Like, who is this brand? Google them, research them. If you don't find much about them, they're going to be a waste of your time. Because your time and where you're spending in the early days is so important that if you spend it on the wrong things, you just won't grow. And a lot of the time can be lost in sales calls, trying to sign clients, back and forwards and all that stuff. But if it's the wrong client in the first place, you will massively struggle. Lastly, the size of the business, you've got to really understand, again, if the business is too big or too small, it may not be the right fit. And then this is quite important, like who is the person on the lead? So if the person that's actually contacted you, filled out your form, booked a calendar call, who are they? Are there someone senior in that company? You can find that on LinkedIn, etc. Very, very easily, because that also frames the conversation, right? Very easily, you'll know that actually someone that's getting in touch is someone real. This is a big opportunity. You need to focus on it. Then fundamentally, it all comes down to this. What problem do you think they have, and do you think you can solve it for them? Because a lot of times someone will book a call with you or whatever. And again, if it's not aligned to what you can actually do, if it's not back to this conversion funnel, and if it's not at the right point of that funnel that you want to play at as an agency, it's going to be a waste of your time. Because someone will be like, hey, can you help us? I'm interested in using your services for this reason. Well, no, because I want to provide services for my own reason, because that is how I'm going to scale. So as hard as it is, you actually have to be very selective and be very smart with who are you working for, what service are you providing, and how closer you can get them to that conversion point, because that's how you'll make the most money. The third step of my blueprint is the business model. And look, the truth is, we've talked about the conversion funnel, so we know we want to be providing services across it. But how do we charge for it, right? How are we going to make money? What is the business model needed for you to scale your agency? This is where I'm a bit different. My thinking was different. My thinking was different, is different, will continue to be different than everybody else, because most people try to charge the most amount of money they can so they can get away with it and feel amazing about themselves, right? So imagine you're like, I deserve it. I'm amazing. I'm going to charge 6,000, right? Know your worth. Charge the highest. That's naturally what every person is selling, because you want to believe that. You want to be like, I want to make the most money. I'm going to charge the highest price possible. And even better, I'm going to find the most profitable niche, and I'm going to go and I'm going to offer services in the most profitable niche. I'm going to help Rolex watch dealers get more clients because they, one client is worth this much, and that's it. And, there's many people on YouTube that are giving the same advice that will say to you, to make the most money, all you got to do is find the least amount of clients. They'll pay you the most money and you're rich, right? And that's a constant thing that's been told. It's far from the reality of what it's actually like. I'm very different to most people because I sit and do this every single day. It's been 8 years now of running my agency. We hit number one on Amazon. I've released so many amazing products and achieved the success because the meticulous detail and knowing the detail, being involved in it and doing it day to day yourself. So it's not about giving you an amazing fairy tale answer to the perfect business model. I'm going to tell you the reality of it. And the reality of it is you got to have a bottom up approach. And I'm going to walk you through that right now on my screen here. So the bottom up approach is all about going from what is the actual cost of you doing something, the actual cost of you doing something, and adding a margin to it. There is no different from when you buy and sell products. And that's my background, right? So if you buy a phone charger for $10, you sell it for $15, that's literally how you should be doing your service. It's the same thinking as selling a product, but you're doing it as a service. You just want to make a profit margin in the middle from your cost and what you're selling it for, right? And the middle is your margin. So I figured this out early, and I call it a base plus performance offer. And what's helped me essentially make a lot of money in base, meaning retainers, and a lot of money in performance, which means taking a percentage of revenue or profit and results. And what that does is it gives you the best of both. It aligns you back to that conversion funnel, because you want to make sure as the company makes more money, you make more money. And that is the best model out there, right? So the best business model for agencies is base plus performance. But let's talk about base first. Base is covering your service costs plus a profit margin. So for example, it could be a one-off project where you're doing, a website build for $10,000, $2,000. It could be hourly, where you're charging hourly for something, or it could be a retainer. Obviously, the bottom is what most people want, right? Most people want to be charging consistent income, but that would be your base, right? That's you making that base. How do you make that base? Firstly, you want to calculate all the expenses you have for delivering that service. So how do we do that? We're going to take the actual cost hour of your time. You have to come up with some reasonable estimation of your own personal cost, and then any team that you have. And then you want to come up with how much is going to physically cost us to do something. So if you're going to design a landing page, it's going to take 1 hour of your thinking time, 2 hours of a designer's time, 1 hour of feedback from you, 1 hour of designer's time, and then 1 hour of you, proofing it and finalizing it and sending it to the client. If that whole thing took 7 hours, then that's the cost of the 7 hours. But then we also want to add in any additional costs. You may be paying for, the Figma. You may be paying for a bunch of other stuff. All the incidental costs that essentially are needed, like to provide your service, you want to apportion them in as well. From that, we are going to get our total cost, right? So we're going to know the exact total cost of doing something. Another example, as I have it here, if you charge $50 an hour, you expect a project to take 40 hours, and you have $500 in cost, that essentially means $50 times 40 plus the 500. So it's going to cost you $2,500. And then it's what margin you are trying to charge on top. In reality, you want to be aiming for 30% margin, because if you could make 30% margin as a service-based business, it's a great starting point. And today, many public big agencies, if you go and look at the stock market, look at how much they're trading for. If you had a 30% profit margin as an agency owner, that's a great place to be. I've spoken with many agency owners, and if you have 70% margins, you're clearly doing something wrong, because you are not spending enough to grow, and you're just pocketing all the money. And that's not the right thing to do if you're trying to scale your agency. So that's how you come up with your base. And then it's quite simple, right? You have your base, you have clear deliverables, and you are trying to charge the least amount possible to still make money. And that is the key to signing more clients in the early days, especially to get to like 100K a month, get to $1 million a year. You need clients. So by doing that, you're only going to develop your skill. The more clients you have, the better you'll become. Then you'll be able to go and do bigger and better projects and sign better clients over time. Versus 5 whale clients and you're just going to be a millionaire, it's just not reality. As much as people are telling you that is the case. So when it comes to performance, essentially a performance-based conversation is just meeting some goal. So for example, it could be a revenue percentage, 20% of AdSense revenue for YouTube videos. It could be deals closed, 10% commission on deals that you closed as a sales team. It could be profit share, profit from running ads, for instance, or profit from a business or a product that you help them sell, etc. So essentially, you want base plus performance. And why I've always loved personally base plus performance, and why it's really helped scale my agency, it always comes across as a very confident thing, because you're saying to someone, not only can I provide these services for you, I know that because I'm managing the whole funnel and I'm in control of it, I know this is going to deliver results. And because of that, I want a percentage. It's actually the opposite of what people are trying to do. Because if you go in with, here's my medium package, here's my big package, I want you to have the big package, it's just the wrong whole thing. You should be coming with one price, one base price, and a percentage, because you're trying to say to your potential client, this is how we're both going to make money together. So that's the business model. Because I know when I was there, right? Like imagine making $2 million a month, right? As an agency. Where you are today, you probably think, how's that even possible? This is how it's possible. This is the business model that will get you there, bar any others. Hopefully you can take that, try to implement it in your agency, and start signing clients that you will make way more money from instead of just getting paid a retainer from them. But look, I'm going to walk you through one more example to show you this from one of my actual clients of what happened. So we had a client that we were doing ads for. They were currently doing 20K. They had a 20K monthly ad budget, and they wanted a 2 times ROI. This is a very common example, same as one of my clients. A standard offer would be in the market that you charge a 5K month retainer. That's what you would charge to run the ads for. But going back with my base plus performance, the trick is you are being smart with it. So instead, the offer we created for this project was 3K month base plus 20% of ad profit. So essentially, I said we charge less than someone else would have, but I baked in that percentage because I knew we will get them results. Why? Because again, I've done the research, we've looked at it, we think we can actually solve the problem, etc. So in month 1, we made them 20,000K profit on ads for them. So if we made 3K, so we made our 3,000 base, plus we made 20% of that 20K profit, be $4,000, we made a total of 7,000 in fees versus the 5K. And in 3 months, we had scaled the ad account to 40,000 spent and made around 20K a month for us. So a client that someone else would have signed, competing agencies were pitching at, we essentially pitched lower, but then added in a percentage. And that made the client think, okay, worst case, I save some money because these guys are cheaper, right? Because my base price was cheaper. So the client's thinking, actually, I'd rather go with these guys. They're cheaper. Great, because everyone just thinks of themselves. And if it does work out, I'm going to give them a percentage fine, but at least these guys will actually give a shit. At least they'll respond to my emails. At least they'll respond to my Slack messages. At least they will actually turn up to meetings and be trying hard versus going to pawn it off to some other guy. I hired an agency recently, and the guy he makes the Connect Slack channel, the owner, and he goes, hi, meet Varun, who is doing X, and he'll now look after you. And he never messaged ever again. So he just pawned it off to the remote worker. And the remote worker's there like sending a random update on random days. No, nothing. And he just left it to the guy to do our work. It obviously was terrible. There was no communication. There was no nothing. And obviously we didn't move forwards. We basically we canceled it as soon as we could. And I see that all the time. So it's not about selling some offer and then finding getting someone else to do it or whatever. You've actually got to believe, and you actually got to be good enough to actually do the thing that you're claiming you can do. If you can do that, you can charge percentages and you can make a lot of money, and precisely how I managed to make multi-million dollars a month using the exact same strategy. Okay, the 4th step in my blueprint, and this is a very unique one, it's client communication. I'm going to talk you through response times, how you should communicate, and what things to look out for internally within your team to make sure it becomes a powerhouse for your agency. And look, the truth is, today I work with other agencies and I have never been impressed when it comes to communication. Our communication at Gemflow has put us so far ahead of all our competitors and has allowed me to keep my clients for 5-6 years plus consistently and retain them. And we have never lost a major client in the company's history because of communication, because I put together such a detailed framework to follow no matter what. And most agencies are just terrible at it. And that is the truth. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so one of the first things is response times. And as it says right here, all client emails should be responded to within 1 business day at the latest. So it's imperative that whoever messages you, if that's an email, firstly, within 24 hours, you always respond. It just cannot be that someone is paying you and you don't do that. So that's absolutely important. How to make sure that happens in your agency is that we have a simple rule, which is at the end of each working day, you should be checking all your emails. And if there's something that needs responding to within the 24-hour period, it needs to be responded with. Even if you don't have a full response yet and you need more work, you should be sending them a placeholder to be like, hey, I'm acknowledging this. I've got this email, working on it. We'll be with you on this date. So they are aware of it. One of the worst things is that if you have paying someone to do something and they haven't got back to you, even if you think that was you and happening in your life to you, you would hate it. So that's the number one thing when it comes to emails. And then obviously a lot of us now speak to clients on Slack. You create a Slack Connect channel and that's the way we do. For that, it's even more aggressive. We say to all the team that if a client has messaged you, within 2 hours, you have to respond to them. And the truth is, a lot of times, it still may not happen and we have to keep training the team and all that stuff. But this habit alone has meant I've never had to worry or not worrying that people are not responding to people. And again, no one responds that fast. I'm in Slack channels now with other agency owners that we are working and paying. Days goes by and no one responds. And it's like, how is that possible? Like, you wake up as an agency owner, all your job is to service your clients. How are you not worried about, I'm going to click on each one of my client Slack channels and make sure everything's good. I'm going to go through my emails. I'm going to make sure everything is good. That is your job as an agency owner. Agency owner is not about you're going to set up some agency, some SOPs, and then you're chilling. It's just all going to be done for you. This sort of stuff is the detail that actually makes or breaks an agency, and is client communication. So we have very, very clear, within 2 hours, a response during the weekdays. And on the weekend, it's quite simple. That if a message does come from a client, we want to acknowledge that message. And we want to say, cool, thanks, got it. We will get to it on Monday. If it's an issue, then of course you'll have to look at it there and then, but we need to respond. Generally, that will happen less, but you still should have that in your SOPs, in your framework, that you have a process for communication properly. Most agencies don't have a process for communication, fundamentally. They'll have some account managers, they'll be doing whatever. You'll say, yeah, we send you an update. And that's about it. There's not a stringent, proper process. The other very small tactical thing is that you always want to be the last to respond. Always. So if a client's like, have a great weekend, you have to say, you also have a great weekend. The point is that if you always are the last person to respond, it means there'll never be a day where someone is like, you didn't get back to me, I was waiting for you, the communication is not good enough. Because if you're always the last to respond, that means you're on top of every single point of communication ever as an agency. This tip alone will save you all the headache that comes from when clients are moaning because they're not happy about something or whatever, because you are always on top of the communication. Honestly, client communication is the single biggest reason why someone leaves you. It's not even the results, because if you were communicating enough, they will still keep trusting you and keep working with you to get to the end result. It'll all break down once the communication first breaks down. And I've seen it time and time again. I've seen it happen within my agency end parts. And definitely when I work with other agencies, the communication is so poor. And that's one of the reasons why I'm like, I can't work with these guys, because they're just literally, I have to chase them to even get a response, and I'm paying them to do this job. It just can't be. Related to this is the way you prepare and do client meetings, which is part of communication, essentially, is the meeting cadence. Like, how do you run your meetings internally and externally? Externally, especially, you have to have a clear agenda. Agenda should be included within each client meeting calendar invite ahead of the meeting, so the client knows and you know what's actually going to happen in the meeting. Secondly, every single call, internal and external, especially client calls, you should be taking meeting minutes, yes, so you can then immediately follow up with exactly what was discussed, what's the plan, and what were the actual action next steps. Even yourself in the call, you have to make sure every single call you are finishing off with, okay, we have agreed the following, this is the next steps, and then you send that in writing via email. Because again, before someone's going to be like, what am I paying for? There's no results. I want to leave, all that stuff. You'll be like, they cannot complain, where if you're having regular calls with them, following up with the regular action points, and if they're not doing their bits, it'll be very clear. So again, it's not even just communication. It's the way you communicate and the way you set up these things in your agency will be the greatest way for you to have success. And look, no one talks about this stuff, right? This is not the sexy stuff. This is not the stuff that you think about when you think about running an agency. But the truth is, these smaller operational details is actually how you scale an agency. It's not about a blue ocean offer and some magical thing that's going to happen and all of a sudden you're going to be flooded with clients and everything's going to be amazing and you're just going to hire some people and they're going to run everything for you. You have to sit and think of these small details, and I'm telling you yourself, you have to figure out, look, what I've just given you, you should implement in your agency immediately, but you need to think of the small things that are needed in your agency. So let's say you have a lot of remote workers today, right? You might have a remote editors, and you naturally may be having the problem of, I don't know when someone starts a day, finishes the day. I don't know what task they finished. I'm still chasing them for the last thing. And that precisely, we were having the same issue. So even your internal communication. So for me, if we have remote teams, they have to start the day and say they have to actually send a Slack message saying, I'm logging in. Here's my plan for the day. And when they finish the day, they must send a report saying, this is what happened. With our design editors that we hire in different places in the world, we even have screen recording software so we know what they were doing the day and how long something takes them. Because naturally, someone's like, it takes me 4 hours to do something. You're like, how is that possible? Because we know the time it would take for something to happen. And obviously you have leeway for, new people, junior people, etc. But there still should be a designated time frame of something happening. And the way you can proof it is through screen recording. And there's lots of these remote softwares now built for this exact reason. So the point being is, being meticulous about the detail will help you scale your agency. And look, the fifth bonus step is that as an entrepreneur, as an agency owner, selling is such an art that it cannot be scripted. So for me, I've signed some of the biggest brands and clients in the world, and I've never used a sales script. I've never used a money back guarantee. I've never used a sales methodology. And I've tried to just openly and honestly help the other person, which then makes the other person want to work with you. And that's the secret of sales. The problem with all the sales books, they're not wrong. They're not applicable to agencies. So a lot of the sales books, to be honest, most of the large sales books or the framework stuff people talk about have come from like the SaaS software companies. When someone was selling Salesforce or Oracle or Cisco systems. So the first big major internet companies, when people were going in and selling it to other corporations, they have to have a certain way of selling. Why? Because you would go in and a team is selling to another team. And there's all these things that you are trying to portray in your sales script, in your meeting, etc., whatever. It's very, very different. Today, sales has just become this gimmick now where people are getting on a call. I sometimes sit on sales calls and I'm like, what is this guy doing? He's not even speaking to me. He's literally saying a question. I give some answer. He asks me another question. And it's a never ending game of circular questions. I'm like, what are you saying? I'll be like, how much do you charge? Well, it's not about, before I can answer that for you, what is it worth to you if someone was to join, if you were to have more clients? How will it feel like to you, Shan, if you have more leads every day? How would that make you feel? You're like, what are you talking about? I'm asking you a question. How much is your service cost? Tell me the price. And they can't do it. So that's where sales is today. So, right, it started off in this way. Today, it's just become that people get on calls, they have a script, then they'll have all these objection handling like tactics. And then they're going to, at some point, trying to use some emotional blackmail of like, so, imagine you could buy your mom a house if your agency was successful. They're trying to take it somewhere else, completely unethical, immoral, and to trying to make you buy a decision. The worst I've seen actually today, agency owners doing is they'll say stuff like, so Shan, I just want to make sure, are you the right person? Is the decision maker on this call today? One guy asked me, he goes, are the decision maker on this call today? Like, what do you mean? He's like, the person that authorizes payments, who's in charge of making the final decision, are they on the call today? Because they want you to almost admit, to be like, yeah, I'm the boss, man. I'm the man. Of course, I'm the person in charge. Because later in the call, they're going to try and be like, so, you need to make this decision today. It's your decision. Don't talk to your business partner. Don't talk to your wife. Don't think about it. Today is the day for action. Basically, gimmicks. I hate that stuff. So why I put this as a bonus step is you want to grow an agency, you got to stop with all the bullshit. You got to stop with all the gimmicks, all this stuff that people are telling you. You've got to actually get good at solving problems and helping people do that. So all you have to do if you want to sign clients is you get on a call and you say to your prospect, to your client that you're talking to, this is the problem you have today. I can help you solve this problem. I have done it before, or I have seen it happen online, or this is why I can solve it for you and how, and this is how much they're going to cost you. This is my base price. And then I want a performance incentive because I want to work together with you. And I'm not like the other agencies. I will send you, we will speak every single week. We have weekly calls with almost every single one of our clients for this exact reason. And I will make sure I respond to you. I will make sure I'll do this, and I'll really work with you and actually give a shit. That's it. And that will help you sign the biggest clients in the world versus this amazing script or some objection tactic or this guarantee. Again, never offered a guarantee in the history of the company. We're almost in 2025, we'll hit $100 million in the agency's revenue because you don't need to. Anyone that is good at providing and talking about what they're doing, they don't need to be saying, well, if I can't do it for you, then I'll also give you money back. It's the most cheap salesman tactic, and any good businesses will see through it. Look, those tactics work on teenagers, up and coming, entrepreneurs or whatever, because it's easy to use those tactics to like push people into buying. That's not what it's about. As an agency owner, you want to do it properly. So that's the bonus point, because it's just so important to do it the right way, and you will start signing clients. So there we have it. That is my blueprint to how to scale an agency, exactly how I have physically done it myself. If you were to follow some of those things, you will start finding success. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.